Child Emperor was recording a message for Metal Knight. The S-Class heroes were in serious danger against the Monster Association. If they lose, then the world would never know peace again. Child Emperor knows that Metal Knight has weapons that are way stronger than any hero. So if he doesn't help at this critical time, he might be considered a threat in the future. But although he was begging Dr. Beaufoy for help, Isamu knew his former mentor wasn't reliable like that. But come to think of it, no one from the Hero Association was even halfway reliable when it comes to an emergency. He's just a kid without any powers. And Tatsumaki is even more childish than he is. Blast just does whatever he wants, and King only works alone. Just then, Puri Puri Prisoner's face broke through the wall behind him. The kid screamed so loudly that he didn't hear a word Prisoner said. Then he punched him. Realizing how scared the poor boy was, Prisoner decided to give him a reassuring hug. Meanwhile, Genos was a cybernetic vegetable. He could hear the approach of death. Tatsumaki was still alive, but of course there were still Psychos who specializes in dealing with espers. It would be very difficult for Tatsumaki to make a comeback here. Genos could still blow himself up, but that would kill the other heroes too. And yet there was still hope, because King is here. And the moment that thought occurred to Genos, King miraculously took action, even if the hero himself had no idea what he was doing. Black S told the latest entry that they're a bit busy right now. Then fear took over as he realized that it was none other than King. Genos was just as anxious. The King engine was roaring like crazy. The monsters cursed their terrible luck. One of the cells was really annoyed since King was just watching them the entire time. He was eager to defeat the world's strongest human. But Psychos warned the others not to be too hasty against the Hero Association's most powerful force. Even evil natural water was hesitant to move. Tatsumaki wasn't going anywhere. So for now, they would focus on King and fight him all together. King just looked at them. Then he scoffed. He didn't know what the hell he was thinking or doing. Even if Genos was in danger, there was no way he'd be able to save him. Meanwhile, Black S was pretty sure that King just laughed at him and was angry about being looked down on. These monsters are so strong that King's name alone is not enough to scare them off. He had to wonder where Saitama was. And since Tatsumaki buried everyone, there is nobody to save him. The Black S cells watched King close his eyes. They wondered if he was waiting for them to make the first move. And come to think of it, they have no idea how King fights. Even a genius like Psychos only heard that he is scary strong. Most monsters faint before he even touches them. So not even they could let their guards down. Just him opening his eyes was enough to make her pause. Homeless Emperor decided to give it a try. So King asked him what he planned on trying. Homeless Emperor's aura flared as he spoke to King. He wanted to see how the hero would respond to his attacks. King noted that and asked what would happen if he were to touch the light. The monster said that normally someone would be blasted to shreds. King noted that too. Homeless didn't like how relaxed King was and began to attack. Just then, King questioned if the monster hadn't noticed yet. The orbs halted. Homeless paused. What? Haven't noticed what yet? That confirmed it. King told the fool to look under his feet. The monster gasped and looked down in fright. But he didn't see anything. King told him to be careful since there are a lot of loose rocks where he's standing. The monster wasn't paying attention, so King wanted to let him know. Homeless was confused. Was King just being nice? No way. He needed to read between the lines. This had to be a warning. King was obviously saying that he's already seen through the monster's light spear attack. Does he really think he can avoid King's retaliation from such a small distance? The hero was trying to tell him that trying that would be a death wish. Obviously, King's senses spread across the entire battlefield, so Homeless Emperor would have been deleted in an instant. A numerical advantage was meaningless against King. But funny enough, Black S mocked Homeless Emperor for being too much of a wuss to fight and decided to do it himself. Just then, King released his crossed arms. He wondered if they let him go if he gets on his knees and begs. Black S tensed with anger. Was King telling him to bring it on? King cursed his bad luck and tried a different tactic. He agreed to give the enemy 10 minutes. Psychos quickly deduced that King was giving them time to run so he could kill them one by one. So she decided to throw a rock at him instead. If they're going to fight King, then they have to do it all together. And man, King really hoped someone would come save him already. The King engine was roaring, and King himself was pretty sure he was going to die. Psychos told the others to get ready. King smiled, totally convinced that he was going to die. But Psychos couldn't believe her eyes. King is an Esper? Not quite. Fubuki was behind him. She apologized to King since she didn't want to get in his way. She just wanted to handle Psychos herself. The president and former vice president of the Society for the Study of Supernatural met for the first time in ages. Seeing as they knew each other, King was relieved. Psychos mocked her former leader. She clearly wasn't happy to see her. But would Fubuki really attack a former colleague? Psychos laughed at the thought of being hit by such weak psychic power. Black S told her to quit the yapping and do something already, and Psychos decided to deal with King after she crushes Fubuki, which King was not happy to hear. Fubuki's power flared, and Psychos was shoved back. Her glasses shattered over her eyes and she screamed. Fubuki proved that she shouldn't be underestimated in a one-on-one fight. Homeless Emperor refused to call Psychos their leader if she couldn't even handle a B-class hero. Now that it was a 3-on-1, he would need to beat King here and now. But as he thought of a plan, Zombie Man emerged and grabbed his neck. The undead hero finally caught his prey. Homeless Emperor couldn't believe the guy was still alive. Zombie Man admitted that he was really close to the pearly gates, but dying is just a bit too hard for him. Homeless Emperor would just have to deal with him for a while longer. And from this distance, it was too dangerous for Homeless Emperor to use his lights because he would be hit too. The monster shouted for Black S to help him out, but the cells just ignored him. There was no way they'd leave themselves open while King was watching. Even evil natural water wasn't moving, and he responds to the emotions of others. King must have figured that out and totally suppressed his killing intent. So even at a critical time like this, King was still able to totally hide his emotions from them. It's as if they're all the equivalent of a single ant to him. He was absolutely looking down on them. So it was all up to Black S to defeat King. 11 trillion, 449 billion, 1,712,554 Black S cells merged together. Could King really defeat them all? Well, at the very least, King would need some time to process that. This thing would need to be killed over 11 trillion times to stay dead? What kind of ridiculous final boss crap is that? But aloud, he said that it's just a number. Then there was a crash, and both sides turned. Puri Puri Prisoner recognized King. He emerged with Child Emperor and Atomic Samurai. King's presence really caught Child Emperor's attention. Then he freaked out when he realized that the water monster was on the battlefield too. But actually, if King is around, then they might have a chance of winning. Atomic Samurai regained consciousness. He spotted Black S and immediately flared with rage. Prisoner held him back. Atomic didn't have a sword, but still wanted to fight. Prisoner offered to fight in his place, but there was no chance of either hero winning. Regardless, King was here, so they could stay out of the way and not worry too much. Prisoner realized that Darkshine wasn't around, but he was pretty sure that the guy's muscles would make digging out really easy. A bit worried, he decided to go back and look for him. They could leave the surface to King. Atomic was worried about his disciples too. Prisoner decided to go save as many of them as he could. But then the surface was breached again. This time, it was Pig God. Prisoner asked the big guy if he was alone, and Pig God responded with a burp. Then out came a person from his mouth. It was Iyayan. Atomic was disgusted, but relieved to see that all of his disciples were safe. Then someone else emerged with a humongous boulder overhead. Sweet Mask was relieved to see that Fuhrer Ugly was dead, but there was still work to be done. It was time to conduct justice. Atomic and Pig God looked at him. King was sweating like crazy. Tatsumaki slowly raised her head. She recognized Sweet Mask. Prisoner told Sweet Mask to leave the fighting to King. Instead, the idle hero launched the boulder. It hurtled towards the Black S cells, and the hero hit the mark. But things did not go as planned. Black S caught it with one hand in his pocket. The hero shouldn't take him lightly. Sweet Mask was unfazed by the cockroach of a monster. But Atomic Samurai shouted a warning. There was a massive cell moving behind him. The hero's reaction was too slow. The huge hand was upon him, but he quickly split it in half. The monster getting bigger just gave Sweet Mask a bigger target to hit. But just then, his arm was blown off. The idol started freaking out. Evil Natural Water was responsible. Child Emperor told Sweet Mask to fall back and support King instead. The boy genius had a counterattack in mind. Instead, Sweet Mask picked up his arm and returned it to its place. The Black S cells were pretty sure the hero had lost his mind. Allegedly, it was a clean cut, so he was able to reattach it immediately. But he would punish the monster for scarring his beautiful body. Child Emperor was too smart to believe that that's how the human body works. Ignoring that, Sweet Mask wanted to know the kid's plan. But then he was shot through the heart. Child Emperor turned and shouted at Pretty Prisoner to go find Darkshine as quickly as he could. Prisoner agreed. He would only need 5 minutes. Since Sweet Mask was dead, the boy genius knew that it was all up to him and King to find a way to defeat the enemy. And with that, the King engine seemed to be shifting gears. But unbelievably, Sweet Mask was still alive. Child Emperor and Atomic Samurai couldn't believe their eyes. Sweet Mask decided to buy King some time so he could learn about Child Emperor's plan. Black S did not like being looked down on, but Sweet Mask did not care. His face hideously shifted as he prepared to punish evil. Elsewhere, Flashy Flash was telling Saitama to move some rubble, but Saitama wasn't very good at following directions. This was just way too much effort. Flash's sword was stuck and the rocks could fall at any moment. Saitama wanted to just punch the rubble away, but Flash refused. At the very least, Saitama figured the guy was lucky that he was around, while the ninja was embarrassed to need help from a B-class hero. Even so, he was honestly impressed by Saitama's skills. Even if it was just a fluke, being able to stop his signature move twice was impressive. So he decided to remember the hero and asked him for his name. The bald man decided to skip his hero name and went with Saitama. So instead of joining the battle to decide the fate of the world, these two are busy saving a sword. Elsewhere, there was Darkshine. He was holding himself in the fetal position. Prisoner barged in asking for his help, but something was wrong. Darkshine figured that the collapse of the complex was thanks to Tatsumaki. He asked if she's beaten Garo yet. Prisoner was confused. Since he didn't see Garo on the surface, he assumed that Darkshine defeated him. That's when Darkshine shook and began to cry. He is a loser and has decided to quit being a hero. When Darkshine was a kid, he had a weak body and didn't play any sports. He had no self-esteem, but when he was 15, his parents gave him some dumbbells. He lifted every day and kept increasing the weight. Eventually, he got bigger and could lift tons with just one arm. It became impossible to numerically describe how strong his body had become. His body was incomparable. He was exceptional in any sport he tried and eventually wound up with the Hero Association. With one victory after another, it didn't take long for him to become an S-class hero. What he wanted more than anything was an opponent who could push him to use his full power. But that wasn't entirely true. Darkshine wasn't really looking for a good fight. Garo's speed and power increased at the same terrifying rate. Darkshine was totally helpless against him, and Garo mocked him throughout the entire ordeal. Garo was just way too strong. Darkshine's desire for a strong opponent was a lie. He realized the truth. He just wanted a fight where he could feel good about himself. Darkshine never planned on fighting with a chance that he might not win. Once he realized that, the fear he felt was drowning. Garo was like a giant, and he doesn't remember a thing after that happened. Darkshine came to the conclusion that Garo was right. He was just playing hero. To that, Prisoner punched him in the face. Darkshine was sent back. He didn't expect it, but also didn't blame Prisoner for being upset. Since one punch wasn't enough, Prisoner went for an angel rush. Darkshine was on his back for a moment. Then he returned to the fetal position and apologized. Prisoner hit him to prove that even his full power could not hurt Darkshine. Besides, it only took Garo one hit to beat Prisoner. Even if the Musclehead lost, the heroes would still need Darkshine's help, and Prisoner admitted that he's never put his life on the line for just this either. Hell, if it weren't for the access to so many guys, he would have stayed in prison. Prisoner also added that he doesn't have anything worth protecting, but he claimed that Darkshine totally does. He has the responsibility to protect himself. Darkshine cherished his body in ways that Prisoner and everyone else simply can't. He warned the hero that if he lets it end here, he may lose that lustrous version of himself forever. Darkshine's body was trembling. His muscles were crying to be used. Whatever the case, it was time for them to go. Otherwise, Prisoner would have to resort to tongue. At the same time, Garo emerged. His body wasn't listening to him anymore. He wondered if he pushed himself too far. Despite his incredible strength, Garo was pretty banged up. He was frustrated by his own humanity and its associated limits. Garo considered his own philosophy. He hates unfairness and anyone who spreads it. Despite claiming to be a monster, Garo wondered if he's just been a human this entire time. Is this really how he wanted to go out? Also on the surface, Fubuki and Psychos were still fighting. Fubuki claimed that Psychos has only improved in the raw power department. Her former protege was lacking in flexibility and innovation. Although, it doesn't get much more innovative than pretending to be a giant monster, but I guess Fubuki missed that. Either way, Psychos was disturbed by the fact that her powers could not reach Fubuki. Psychos was too reliant on her powers. In this vulnerable state, victory was all but certain for Fubuki. She warned the villain that she has 10 seconds to pull back her psychic wave before she is punished. Psychos increased her output and dared the hero to try. In reality, Fubuki was bluffing. She just wanted Psychos to run out of steam. Psychos' power output is way higher than Fubuki's. Even an S-class hero would struggle against her powers. But Fubuki is different. For the sake of surpassing her sister Tatsumaki, Fubuki developed her psychic whirlwind technique. She discovered the linear movement aspect of psychic power. When telekinetically moving an object, the wave always finds the shortest route. Fubuki taught herself how to freely control how the wave travels. Under normal circumstances, this isn't really a big deal, but against a fellow Esper, it's huge. Despite Psychos' crazy power output, Fubuki's circular waves could negate it all. If it wasn't for this strategy, Fubuki would have lost in an instant. The B-class hero is very proud of the technique she gained through hard work, unlike her sister Tatsumaki, who was born with ultimate power. But as it turns out, Tatsumaki also gained this technique when she was a kid and didn't realize. She even found a way to turn it into a powerful attack, and Fubuki has no idea. Psychos was furious at the thought of her plans being ruined by Fubuki yet again. When Psychos was 17, her power was close to surpassing Fubuki's, and the jealous Esper sealed them away. So was Fubuki really going to stop her from being at the top all over again? Yeah, Fubuki told her to go cry about it. At the end of the day, she is an egoist. When Psychos first proposed her plan to wipe out humanity, Fubuki only disagreed since she didn't see a point in being at the top if there's no one to stand above. To her, there are only winners if there are also losers. Fubuki was not going to let Psychos take the losers away from her. So she accepted that Psychos is an enemy who must be destroyed. And Psychos was just as eager to crush her. Their battle intensified even more. In the past, Psychos was eager for their club to rule the world from the shadows. They crushed a rival Esper group and added them to their numbers. Psychos' power was growing, but she was still behind Fubuki. One day, she decided to look into the third eye ability, which would allow her to see into the future. Then their organization would be strong enough to take on Tatsumaki. But the future she ended up seeing was horrible. Instead of taking over the world, she wanted humanity to be exterminated. And Psychos was furious when Fubuki refused. In the present, Fubuki managed to overpower her, but wondered what Psychos managed to see happening in the future. Psychos was never this strong in the past. so Fubuki was sure that something must have changed her. Maybe the source of all this madness came from her looking into the future. But Garo begged to differ. He believed the humans were the source of madness. Fubuki lashed out. Garo stood tall and declared himself the ominous future, disaster-level god. Meanwhile, Flashy Flash was impressed by Saitama's rubble-clearing skills and considered them to be worthy of an A-class hero. He spoke to Saitama like a wise senior, despite being the one who was stuck. This was actually Fubuki's first time seeing Garo, and in that instant, she knew for sure that this was the hero hunter at the center of everything. Fubuki attacked, and Garo blurred. He defended himself against every projectile. It was totally useless. Garo's body felt impossibly light, as if his spirit had been removed. He asked Fubuki what she sees when she looks at him. The Esper froze, but he demanded an answer. What does he look like? Meanwhile, Sweet Mask was faring surprisingly well against the endless Black S cells. Atomic Samurai admitted that he misjudged the idol hero. There is no doubt that the guy is S-class level, but he wondered how long things could go on like this. Depending on King to handle the situation was pitiful, but they were all out of options. Atomic really wished he had his sword, but noticed that something was up with Pig God. The big hero asked himself if now was the right time, but no. He doesn't think this is what Shibabawa's prophecy was referring to. He figured that he should save his power for the very last moment. Atomic wondered what the big man was even talking about. Pig God was sure that if he died here, then there wouldn't be anyone left to save the world. But things took a bad turn for Sweet Mask as evil natural water entered the fight. In turn, Atomic and Pig God rushed in to distract the water monster. Child Emperor explained to King that evil natural water has a sort of heart that they need to destroy. Just hitting or piercing it would not be enough, which is where King's power comes in. Much to King's concern, every time the monster attacks, it loses some of its water and shrinks. Eventually, only its liquid heart would remain. From there, King will use his signature energy wave attack, the ultimate Hellfire Burst Wave Motion Cannon, to wipe it out. Once evil natural water is dealt with, they can move on to handling Black S. The other heroes would need to do everything they could to force the water monster to attack. Child Emperor was even willing to put his own life on the line just to give King a chance. King tried to respond, but the kid was already gone and counting on him. So the hero nervously stretched and got to work. It was time to practice his ultimate move. In reality, he was preparing to just run away. Meanwhile, Flashy Flash was getting serious. Saitama could tell that something had changed. Flashy Flash was finally able to pull it out. The ninja strained. Saitama asked if the guy needed some help, but Flashy Flash was afraid of breakage. He told Saitama to move aside. Eventually, he secured his precious sword. It took a while, but the blade was still in good shape. The hilt was a bit worn, but it was definitely still functional. With his beloved weapon in hand, it was time for them to go to the surface and exterminate the monsters. Yeah, Saitama knocked the hero upside the head, knocking it into the sword, and broke it. This whole time, he thought Flashy Flash was trying to save his own arm. But breaking the guy's sword was a total accident. Saitama thought to himself for a moment. Sweating, he suggested that they fix it with a bit of glue. He even has some at home. Raising his hand, Saitama told the ninja to calm down. He probably couldn't afford to replace the weapon, but he does have some pretty good tape at home too. And if that's not enough, Saitama offered to give him his favorite kitchen knife. At the very least, it's pretty good at cutting cucumbers. Which is exactly what Flashy Flash needed when a streaking inmate crashed into him before he could respond. On the surface, Tadeo, a boy who innocently dreamed of becoming a pro hero himself, watched the horrible scene unfold. Tadeo admired Child Emperor most of all, a 10-year-old just like him who was already a legend at the peak of his life. But now, Tadeo's dream was being broken right in front of him. Evil Natural Water's attacks were too fast and too strong. All three of the heroes were in rough shape, and despite all that, the monster didn't seem to be shrinking at all. Child Emperor knew that they were done for, as Tadeo fearfully accepted that he would never be able to be a hero like them. But someone else found the display to be totally pathetic. It was Tatsumaki. She expects to be sore for a few days, but joined the fight regardless. This time, Psychos wasn't around to hold her back. The tide of the battle shifted in an instant. Tatsumaki intensified her force, and evil natural water was being blown away. Now the heroes could leave the rest up to Tatsumaki and King. Evil natural water tried to withstand it, but Tatsumaki was way too strong. While the Black S cells were in danger of all being launched off the planet. So in their desperation, they began to fuse together. Multi-Cell S was born. 1,293,142,261,072 Black S cells merged into one. Now the monster was incomprehensibly stronger than the previous version. What's even scarier is that there are still another 10 trillion Black S cells left. The empowered monster charged in and told the little Missy to go to hell. Then its neck was twisted. The monster couldn't believe it. Then his head was hit by a boulder. Being called Missy made Tatsumaki ask if she really looks that young to the monster. The oblivious Esper appreciated the compliment. Now the Black S army was really worried. Beating 1 trillion of them so quickly certainly justified the terror in Tatsumaki's hero name. And there was still King to worry about. The King engine was roaring, but mostly because he saw Tatsumaki's panties. Child Emperor realized that the merged monster wasn't splitting and was actually dead. Now that Tatsumaki was here, losing to Black S was impossible. More importantly, they needed to wipe out every single Black S there was, because escape could cause problems later on, which would be easy enough for Tatsumaki. So now everyone on the battlefield was looking down on Black S. More angry than ever before, the monster refused to run. Many faces sprouted and were launched. 10,000 cells rushed in for a kamikaze attack. They ended up all being squished in seconds. But they never actually planned on winning like that. All of the heroes turned. In the distance, one of the cells waved to them all. 10,000 cells couldn't even buy 20 seconds. But hey, at least they got the hostage. Zombie Man was disgusted by the tactic. He was still holding Homeless Emperor. The monster claimed to be even more dangerous than Black S and swore to have his revenge. Zombie Man wasn't going to kill him. Instead, they'd force answers out of him once this was all said and done. Zombie Man wanted to know more about the monster's power. If his story was true, then they need to be ready for whatever is really pulling the strings. Homeless Emperor was about to say something about God, then suddenly, a creature demanded silence and decided to take it back. Homeless Emperor was confused and didn't recognize the creature. It stared at him. It took a step forward and stood tall, as Homeless Emperor tried to rationalize. And I mean really tall. Zombie Man was in his birthday suit in a field of flowers with this gigantic monster. In reality, he had a petrified expression. Zombie Man wondered what got into him. Homeless croaked, his power, and his life. God was taking it all. Zombie Man wanted answers, but the monster was shriveled up and unresponsive. He turned to ash and his power flowed away. Zombie Man was disturbed. The monster's brain caught fire and burnt out. Now he was left with even more questions. At the same time, Black S was laughing maniacally. He was celebrating his good fortune. Tatsumaki was annoyed and asked how he plans on escaping. For starters, Black S would not be running. All of the heroes would be dying. Atomic Samurai couldn't believe the monster still thought it had a chance against Tatsumaki, while Sweet Mask could tell that the monster wasn't bluffing and had a plan. The Black S with the hostage was 100 cells strong. The other 10 trillion would be fighting Tatsumaki. It's true that once cells merge, they can never separate again. So 10 trillion cells were all fighting for existence. The monster described it as being a terrible yet beautiful moment that filled his heart with sadness. 9,999,999,999,999 of him would be disappearing forever. But once they all merge, his true self would finally be revealed. Kinda like a messed up baby. And that messed up monster baby was now facing his opponent. Golden S was born with a blast. Yeah, Tatsumaki didn't see much of a difference from the last one. Golden S decided to respond. He casually passed through for a moment, dealing unexpected damage to the Esper. The many heroes were stunned. Black S was fanning out at the sight of his perfect self. They wouldn't even need a hostage anymore. Golden S didn't see the point in cheap tricks anymore. He told the remaining 100 to be absorbed too. Black S was confused. There was no more reason to combine. After all, they were the last 100 cells. Golden S clarified that he didn't say combine. He wants to absorb them since they no longer have a reason to exist now that he's around. So at this point, Black S was even being looked down on by Golden S. And while they were bickering, Tatsumaki made her move. Golden began to spasm. The monster fought hard to keep his head from being twisted, and succeeded. He politely asked the Esper not to try that again. Even so, he was impressed to see that she was still alive, and Black S warned Tatsumaki that if she tries something slick again, then the kid gets it. Golden S wasn't into cheap tricks, but didn't mind a bit of insurance. He told all the heroes besides Tatsumaki to form an orderly line, and wait for their turns to die. Just then, words cut across the battlefield. Ultimate! Tadeo was shocked. Hellfire! Black S was freaking out. This was King's voice. Tatsumaki was just a distraction. Burst! Golden S had to focus. King was making his move, and he was surprisingly far away. But now was the time to strike. Wave Motion Cannon! This was the King-style Energy Wave Ultimate Hellfire Burst Wave Motion Cannon. And it was also a total bluff. King was sure that Saitama had to be nearby. Even if Tatsumaki can't handle the enemies, King knew that if he just stalled for a bit longer, Saitama might appear. Before meeting the guy, King would have already run away. But now, he's holding on to just a bit of hope. With the extension of his arms, King had the power to annihilate all the monsters. They could only brace themselves against the impending onslaught. The power of courage created a miracle and turned King's imaginary move into a reality. The dormant talent he had since birth was finally unleashed. A power that rivaled Saitama's that King hadn't realized was a thing until now. The legend of history's strongest man has finally begun. But he was just standing there. Child Emperor shouted for King not to shoot, but somehow King was already ahead of him. He must have noticed the hostage. Black S cursed. He and Golden S almost soiled themselves, but King hasn't even done anything. Then the strongest man started running away. Black S didn't know what the hero was doing, but heard him mumbling a chant. With Golden S's superior mind, he deduced that it's likely to be a curse. And despite his curiosity, the monster knew that King probably wanted to be chased for the cure so he could fight Golden S one-on-one. But the Golden Disaster wasn't willing to leave the hostage. Even a total enigma like King would have to listen to their demands. He suggested that they break Tadeo's legs just in case. But something was wrong with Black S. Goro tore right through him. The emergency was already here, and the demented hunter was surging with bloodlust. Black S was freaking out, and the heroes were surprised too. Golden S had no idea how Garo was still alive. But Garo punched him before he could finish his sentence. He sent the monster flying and spoke to Tadeo directly. Tonight, anyone who tried to kill the boy and anyone who tried to save him would not survive. He was going to crush this child's outlook on life and show him the truth about heroes. Tadeo nervously asked Garo if he's a monster. Golden was still twirling and raging. He was ready to get serious against the intruder. Garo's response was that before, he was just a human. Black S began to split. He told Garo that a fool who can't even abandon his own humanity should not be so full of himself. Garo replied that his human self is dead. His body changed, and he annihilated the monster. In less than a second, a confused hand's worth was all that remained. The blow was way too powerful. All 99 of the remaining Black S cells were wiped out in one go. Tatsumaki couldn't believe it. Black S was all out of cells and freaking out. He really needed to hide. Golden S acknowledged Garo for becoming the monster the hero hunter always wanted to be. The punch Golden S received was well beyond the threshold of human capability, so it was time to get serious. The monster's power surged. Then he moved. Child Emperor and Zombie Man could not see the monster. Sweet Mask knew that even if all the heroes on the scene went all out, defeating Golden S still would not be easy. But when Golden launched, Garo met him, and there was a heavy crash. Eventually, the dust cleared, and Garo was the only monster left standing. Next time, it's time to conduct evil. It is the real Monster Garo versus everyone.